All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Urban Nation. I got a special guest in the building, and we both got names that our mama gave us that makes us special. You know, my mama spelled Terrell with a Y in it, and Ryan, your mama happen to put a what in your name?
An E at the end, and it is Ryan, like Ryan from the whenever it was created, and now it has an E at the end, which still makes it Ryan. Yeah,
There you go.
exactly, just like that Y. It's incredible.
Look, often imitated but never duplicated, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. I love that.
Now we're gonna go into an amazing topic. I had the chance to look at your website and everything, and it's so beautiful. And I love what you're doing to empower folks, especially around those three confidence killers. But we're gonna dive deep into that. But first, I want to go back. I want to go into your origin story. Can you share, what really inspired? Well, first, tell the people what you do and what inspired you to specialize in coaching for high achieving Black women. And how did your journey into this field really begin? Because that's a very unique segment and population that you're targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that question. So, in the framing of that, um, and I love the question because it's also so very big. Where do you start telling a story where your business actually aligns with your life's mission, with your own sort of struggle, with your passion of learning and understanding, with your background? And that's what Inspire is for me. It really intersects. So when you say, Ryan, where did you start? It's like I could start anywhere. I could start with my parents, who my dad was really focused on, like in his hobby time, his interest, mindset, like Stephen Covey was something that we had the cassette tapes for in the car. And my mom was really focused on like achieving your personal best and about like I learned etiquette from her. And I mean like intensive etiquette. Like this is how to do this is how to like be, this is how to like, she was like my first coach. So I could say my parents, right?
Nice.
And then I could say my education in terms of women focus. I went to an all girls high school. I went to Spelman College. I'm in a sorority. I'm in the Links. I'm in AKA. It's like, it could be that, right? Or I could start with this very pivotal moment in my career where I was feeling squeezed. I was feeling undervalued. I was feeling all the things that one feels when what I now know is you have outgrown your space. It's time to expand. It's time to jump into scary new things. However, at the time, it felt like I'm being undervalued. And that had a lot of charge to it emotionally and all the things. And at the same time, I had created something called Inspire Sunday Brunches, where I was delivering talks to my network and my friends. And I was introduced to, for the first time, a coach who asked the question during a workshop, are you your own best friend? And that question hit me like square in the eyes. Are you your own best friend? Do you talk to yourself as if you're your own best friend? And it shook me on a couple levels. One, it shook me to the core because I realized, no, I don't. And there was a lot of shame with that, a lot of like heaviness with that, a lot of like, wow, oh my gosh, I've never even thought about that before. And then there was a second piece that said, well, why would you talk to yourself as if you're your own best friend? How would you get anything done? And so there was like this almost like clap back, but I'm everybody else's best friend. Like I would be somebody else, you know what I mean? Like, but are you your own best friend, Ryan? And then a third thing came up. It was, oh my goodness, this is like your life's mission to help yourself and other women, other high achievers navigate this terrain. And so I took my passion project, which was Inspire Sunday Brunches, and I LLC'd, and it became a coaching business. And I took that undervalued sense within my work where I was working, and I decided that I was going to step out on faith and begin to understand how to value my own value. And I say begin to understand because, quite frankly, that has been the journey, learning to value my value, because these confidence killers undermine a person's ability to value their value, to be their best friend, to ultimately be their own champion, because fear gets in the way. That's kind of how I got here.
Yeah, I love. Thank you for taking us through that journey. I love your journey, and one would probably say with everything that you just mentioned that all of it is part of the journey, right? But the pivotal moment of like building is at the cups of outgrowing that position and so forth, and then getting that information of being your own best friend. Um, the reason why this resonates with me so deeply because probably last year I was doing some work with an organization called Village Up, where we had taught to like high achieving women, and especially in entrepreneurship and starting businesses, and they talk about what the struggles they go through with imposter syndrome and in different spaces, right? Especially male driven spaces, and how that is. And I was like, wow, I would have never thought that this high achieving woman would have imposter syndrome, like she doesn't belong. And it was an eye opening experience for me. And then as I started to learn more about it and go into data about how women look at, especially women of color, they like, say for example, if they wanted to apply for a VC fund, or just let's just say let's even break it down to something smaller like a job. Like they have to make sure they meet all the boxes first before they apply. And if you put that up against a white cis male, they might not hit all the boxes and they would still apply, right? And that was fascinating me to see that. What do you think it is that, and not to generalize all women, but that study for sure was an eye opening. What do you think it is that's stop those high achieving women from leaping out and taking that extra chance of faith and saying, hey, I know I can do this. I have these skills. Why do they have to check all the boxes to feel like they deserve that opportunity or to go for that opportunity?
Right. No, it's such an important question, and it's one that's very, very layered. And I'm going to try to take like 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 4, to like answer a really
I
big,
know
really
I
important
put it
question. Do
all
you
up
know,
and in
it's
there.
like so important. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I want to start by, this is another one of those like interesting questions of like where to intersect, because to give enough context to really make it concrete and also really answer the question. So it sounds like the question is, what causes specifically high achieving women to experience imposter syndrome, as seen by a study that really shows the outcome of what the mindset imposter syndrome can produce, which is a person feeling like I've got to be 100% of what this qualifying, in this case, job description says. And if I'm not 100%, I'm not enough to apply for it. Like, why are we seeing that at a statistically significant rate within this population, right? Okay, so, all right. It's a number of factors, right? It's a number of factors. The thing that I want to first
No, give
share
them to me
is,
all. I'm
yeah,
here for it.
yeah. The first one is that this really isn't like a high achieving woman thing. What this is a human thing. And
Mm,
my
mm,
marketing and the way that I showed up in the world, which determines my marketing, the people who like really listen to me, are high achieving Black women, because that's what I am. That is my lived experience. We collectively
mm,
have similar conditioning experiences where we as a collective, if you polled enough of us, could say, like in unison, things like, right, it makes sense, or not make sense. we have a lived experience, we have a reality, we have an understanding. Things like we are to expect to work twice as hard and expect half, right? Like that's something, if you polled 100 Black women, we probably would be able to repeat that, right? So we've had similar conditioning. However, our response to that conditioning is a human conditioning, right? Because I'm separating it into two separate things. One, we're human beings with nervous systems that respond to conditioning, respond to the way that we're thinking, respond to our belief system, right? So if whatever the belief is, the nervous system is responding to it. So if the belief is through conditioning, I am supposed to show up and I'm supposed to work twice as hard and I'm supposed to expect twice as less. I'm supposed to expect half. That becomes a taught belief, that becomes part of your self-identity. It becomes part of what you believe. And see, this is the segment, probably part number 2 that I very much want to talk about, is the power of our beliefs. What beliefs do to the human nervous system. Our beliefs are our blind directions for our lives. Why does someone go to the faucet to get water and not the toilet to get water? It's water. You believe you go to the faucet because you believe it's cleaner than the toilet water, because of a belief, because of experience, because of conditioning, because of what you've been taught. It's a belief that has you go there. If you were thirsty and you didn't know, you were not taught that, you would not distinguish. You'd be like, it's water. Why are you like making the distinction? It's all based on belief. Okay. So if a person is telling themselves, I have to be perfect. I have to be perfect. Unless I'm perfect, I'm not enough. Unless I'm perfect, I'm not enough. I can't do it. I'm second guessing. What that does is that traumatizes the nervous system. A person has one of 4 choices. They can flee the situation. They don't apply for the job. They can fight. They can bully themselves. They can shame themselves. See, every time you don't do this, you did. That could be what they do. They could freeze, which is procrastinate. I don't do it at all. Or they could fawn. They could people please. They could, totally abandon their own values. So those are the one of 4 choices that we have when we are traumatized. It is a traumatizing story to tell yourself, and this isn't anyone's fault. It is not our collective fault that we. It's a human, and now it goes back to humanity. Human beings at the core of like all of our suffering is this belief we're not enough, whether we're white male who is still, all the things, privilege, or who is in his own, reality, not feeling enough, all the things, to a person who has all the distinctions and is feeling the same human suffering. Now, bringing it to Black women, again, the idea is that we collectively have a collective conditioning. So you take women who statistically, have been conditioned to believe you have to be perfect. You have to show up in this way in order to have value, to have enough. Similar to, men, I think the statistic is like, it's not 100% men either. I mean, not all men are like applying for the job. There's some gap, our gap is more the conditioning. You have different beliefs. That's the whole thing. Like literally different beliefs. A man is walking around having very different bravado beliefs than a woman who is taught to constrain herself and hold herself in and to not show her anger. You guys are, which is not like any fault of anybody. The passion just comes in from there's real conditioning that happens. And so it's a human experience, and then it's microcosmed to women, microcosmed to high achieving women. You're taught to be, you're smart, and then second guess, and then Black women, we have this collective experience. So it's multidimensional, and yet at the same time, it's very simple, and that it's a human dynamic when you are doubting yourself.
Yeah. And I think all of that is layered into, what we briefly talked about before we started recording is it starts to feed into those confidence killers, right? And I know you have several or three particularly that you're going to talk about with us, which is imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and is it distractionism? Is that the I know
That's
you
right.
came up with that term.
That's
Hey, you
right.
coined it. So
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to tell us about it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
the impact of the confidence killers, like imposter syndrome and perfectionism? You kind of mentioned it on high achieving women's ability to advance in their professional dreams. I know you spoke on it,
Right.
but expand upon it and give us those definitions around these wonderful terms that you're bringing to us.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think of it, I just got this really powerful download. I think I'm going to be running with this from here forward. So they're each almost like radio stations, okay? Because we've already set
Hmm.
up in our conversation that our beliefs are running the show. Our beliefs are the conversation in our minds. And
Hmm.
remember, I don't know if I've said this, but our beliefs live in our subconscious mind, which is 95% blind to us. We don't know what we believe, why we believe it. We simply believe these things. So that means, again, the importance of this is
Hmm.
that if someone is believing, I'm not enough to apply to this job, they're also having
Hmm.
the physical symptoms of that. They're having stress. They're having the physical, tangible feelings of insecurity. They're having self-doubt. They're having shame. I mean, these are like real experiences that's happening in someone's inner
Hmm.
universe that they can actually feel, right? So let's say that beliefs are radio stations, a tune in like
Hmm.
old school radio where you got to like dial in. You can kind of be on the cusp of one
Yeah.
station or the other. Categorically,
Look, you might be
these
losing some millenniums right now. They're like,
I know, they're like,
what's
who,
this tune
what?
in stuff?
Like, is that what I saw? I thought that was like a spaceship. Oh my God, I thought that was like a drone. Right? No, it's called a radio. It has two dials. One is volume and the other is called tune, AM, FM. You got to switch the dial. So these are AM stations. I want to say I'm being real concrete with it. These are AM stations. These are like, you don't want to go. These stations are like, why are we here? Okay. Categorically, that's where these three confidence killers sit. And you can tune
Right.
into any of them. And if they are playing in your system, they are causing those trauma experiences that we're talking about, that we just talked about. Okay. And categorically, one station is called imposter syndrome. And this collectively
Mhm.
are our thoughts, our feelings like, if they find out that if they really know about me, if a collective they, whoever they are, they your peers, they your parents, they your colleagues, if they know truly who I am, if they know how hard I work, that I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't really belong here, I second guess everything I do. Why are people asking me? I know I have the title, I did the work, but no one knows that I'm really a mess on the inside. If they only knew, they would know I do not belong here. I am an imposter in my own skin. I do not belong
Mm.
in doctor, lawyer, baker, coach, business person. They're going to call me out and I'm going to be a total fraud. Okay, that's a lived experience,
Mhm.
collectively called imposter syndrome. Now, imagine if
Mhm.
that's like living in someone's nervous system. They're procrastinating. They're feeling like overwhelmed, all the things. And it's not that they have to feel that all the time or in every single space of the life, but they might feel it, when
Mhm.
they're really reaching for a goal, which is the thing that we're talking about. We're talking to high achievers around their business. And so it's like, this matters. Okay. Another one is
Mhm.
perfectionism. And perfectionism is this categorically another radio station that sounds like, if I or my product or whatever I'm creating is not 100% right, if it's not perfect, if I can't answer all the questions, if I don't know all the information, if I don't come with my complete 100% A game, I can't do it. I can't complete it. I can't get there. It's not enough.
Mhm.
I'm not enough unless it's 100% done, which causes a lot of stalling, causes a lot of second guessing, and it causes a lot of self-doubt and a lot of eroding of your confidence that you can get something done. The third radio
Mm-hmm.
station is called distractionism. And I coined this in my practice about 6 years ago from my own lived experience and from what I continue to hear from high achieving women who have all the titles, who have done all of the work, who have achieved great things, who said things like, I feel like I'm a fraud. People are going to find out that I'm not supposed to be here. I feel like a fraud. Also, if I'm not perfect, but then there's this other piece that sounds like I have a really difficult time wrapping my arms around time and goals. It's like I get it, but I'm always late. I can't find things. I feel a lot of shame because I can't complete tasks. I overextend and I really want to get things done, but I can't seem to execute. And I have this sense that I'm broken because I'm smart and I've accumulated a lot of accomplishments, but I doubt them because then imposter syndrome kicks in and perfectionism. So imposter syndrome says I'm a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Perfectionism says I'm not enough. And then this distractionism piece says, because I can't execute and really, live the things out that I can plan, but I can't make them happen. Now, what I have come to understand in my own journey and through navigating with a lot of my clients is that what I have coined is actually undiagnosed. The experience oftentimes is undiagnosed ADHD neurodivergence. And so what I have coined as distractionism is the experience of that. And, so what I help people with is, yes, some of the strategies and tactics with ADHD, more about the story that comes along with feeling like you're broken because you can't seem to get something done, even though you're very smart. And the story that someone tells themselves about, their capabilities. So those are the 3 confidence killers that I see consistently in my practice that I support people with my 8-step process to really navigate through and to advance their dreams, like not in spite of, but like to really learn how to manage and master tools that heal your nervous system, heal your mind, heal your self-identity, heal your confidence around those 3 aspects.
Is that the first part of the 8-step process, or give me that high level 8-step process? What does that look like? What's that framework look
Absolutely.
like?
So it's called the Advanced Accelerator process. And high level, so I'll go through the first 3 steps at a very high level because those are the first 3 foundational steps. And the first step is to really unlock your brilliance. And so when I'm talking about your brilliance, it is the sort of natural sense of who you are. It's your natural strengths. Most of the time, it's your values, it's your passion, it's who you are without the self-doubt, essentially, who you are without the second guessing, who you are without fear, false evidence appearing real. You living your vision of yourself. And in order to do that, we have to get to clarity. We have to get clear on 2 very specific things. One, I help clients get very clear on what they want. So often, it's very uncomfortable to sit with, what do I want? If you are trapped by perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and distractionism, your habit is to avoid really concretely getting down to what do I want, because you can't even get to that level if you're feeling like everybody's going to catch you not really being yourself. You're not perfect enough to be yourself, and you're too distracted to be yourself. It's hard to sit and say, what do I want? What do I want, right? That's one thing. Another thing is, because it can be a knee-jerk reaction of discomfort, we get to, well, how? How am I going to make this kind of generic sense of, I want to advance, I want this business, I want to be happy. How do I make it happen? How? How do I answer the questions? How do I get there today? And that how is a distracting question to what. So I help people really sit with the discomfort of, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your business to look like? Who are you? What does that look like? What is the vision? Number 2, about clarity, about unlocking your brilliance, is we've got to get really super familiar and hyper focused and aware on what is the fear that we tell ourselves. What is the BS, the belief system that we tell ourselves? Because the only reason that I don't have and you don't have and anybody else doesn't have the things that we want is because of the things that we tell ourselves. I don't have the things that I want because I say I can't have them. Now, I might wrestle with, do I really say that? Well, yeah, every time I say, I'm going to do this thing, and you're like, you can't do that. Does that make sense? I'm doing the same thing that I help my clients overcome. It is the only reason we do not take action is because we tell ourselves don't do it. And there's a person inside who's listening who doesn't take the action. So if you have different beliefs, you would take the action. White men have different belief. That's why they take the action. I mean, it comes down to belief. Now, we could very much get into the conversation about, well, they are allowed to and don't allow and this is why it becomes very complicated very fast. However, we
Yeah, it
also
gets
can
very
take,
convoluted when you start to have all those things in there.
do you know what
Like
I
it gets
mean?
very convoluted when you
Very.
start to throw those things in there. But go ahead.
And the only thing that I am micro niched. There are other people, like people who are serving social justice, and people who that is their micro niche, to support unlocking and shifting those dynamics. My dynamic is, as a high achieving Black woman, how can we dismantle the construct that says you have to work twice as hard and expect half? How can we dismantle that by saying, I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I don't believe that I have to second guess myself. I don't believe I have to walk into a room and be perfect. I don't believe that I have to, contort myself. I don't believe I have to code switch. I can believe about myself that I am enough to be me and walk into these places and spaces and be myself, and constantly have to let go of, what are they thinking? Because that's part of the human dynamic, is to let that go, whatever the tape is. I'm from,
Yeah.
wherever, and I have this tape in my mind that says I am not good enough. Whatever the tape is, we've got to eradicate the tape. And we have just a collective tape that I'm supporting people eradicate.
Nah, I love that you start going back with starting with what, right? Because that gets the clarity, right? And a lot of sometimes the reason that we don't succeed because people are living in chaos in their mind is that there's all these things causing chaos, so I can't get clear on the what to move me forward and take those small steps and actions that allows me to move forward. Um, when you think about well, you know what, I want to go back to the neurodiversity piece real quick. How
Mm-hmm.
does neurodiversity really play into this? Because and because I have a personal story to this. I'm working on neurodiversity projects right now, and I was diagnosed when I was much younger, right, as a kid. And I remember always living with, oh, you're not smart enough. He has to be put into the slow class and all this other stuff talk that they gave to me and my mom. But my dad, who's of Nigerian descent, was like, no, if he can remember lyrics to a rap song, he don't need to be in the slow class or none of that stuff, because he recognized, the school to prison pipeline during that time and era where we lived. And so I didn't get the tools and resources that I needed. So I sort of masked in different spaces and learned how to navigate different spaces based on that masking. How does neurodiversity play a role in this? If somebody has ADHD, in and how they would center themselves and navigate this space, and are their tool sets the same, or is it different, or does it change the lens of the conversation?
Okay, so I'm going to answer it in two different ways. Okay, the first way I'm going to answer it is I'm going to talk about the narrative that you just told, which has nothing to do with your nervous system. Okay, I'm going to talk about the
Okay.
narrative that says that you have a lived experience where showing up as your authentic self was not accepted, not accommodated for, not valued, not nurtured, was in fact undervalued, was not supported, was not given the tools, was not appreciated, was not adapted to, was not gentle towards, was shamed. at a tender age where self-identity is paramount, where self-identity is created. So you lived an experience that affirmed the human questioning, am I enough? You learned to mask. You learned to cope. You learned to perhaps believe things like, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, but yet I'm smart over here. Maybe I'm a fraud. If I got to be perfect over here, maybe I'm always so distracted, but I can do this. So there's a narrative, there's a self-concept, there's a self-identity that has been created that you, and if you categorically statistically take a survey of people who've lived that kind of experience, would all say the same thing, like, dude, that is my exact experience. Oh my gosh, I was so smart. I could do all these things, but damn, like I forgot where the leash was, so I couldn't walk the dog and I couldn't take out the trash and I couldn't, it was like, we okay, so I think I'm dumb, but I'm smart. So that's okay. So we haven't even talked about a nervous system yet. We've talked about a lived experience that has created a self-concept that now as an adult, when you go to like, have someone on your podcast and you're like, oh my God, should I email them or not? Or like, did you get tripped up? Like, I don't know why I have this overriding feeling that I'm smart, but people aren't going to really get me. And It's because that in our 95% of who we are, the subconscious mind is believing, it's blasting this belief. You're not enough because that's the story that's taking place inside. And so every lived experience that you have now, I'm projecting this on you, but for this example of the story, but now through the lens of I'm not enough, every single decision is based on that belief internally for someone. And we still haven't talked about your nervous system. So I help people to dismantle the story that they're stupid, that they're not smart, and how that story is impacting their everyday lives. I can't do my business. I can't send this email. I can't finish my website. I can't call these people. I can't. Why? Because I believe I'm not enough. Why? And so that now that's that. I feel I get, and then the chaos of the mind happens that you talked about. And so people aren't sitting with, well, what actually is happening? What am I thinking about? What's going on? How can I keep getting tripped? That's a coach's job to walk you. That is my job to walk people through that understanding of what's happening in their brain. So how does someone's nervous system actually take place and impact this conversation? Well, so in so many ways, if you, this world, the world, the Western world, the American capitalism, all that we live in, education system was not created for our nervous systems. It is absolutely statistically shows if you and I have similar time warpy perceptions of time. Well, if getting to work at 10 o'clock means my livelihood, if you're not here at 10 and it's really, like I'm like 1 or 2 minutes late, I'm like 3 or 4. And for me, that's like on time. I'm busting my ass to get there, and that matters for your work life, and you get fired and you have a history. Like how do you accommodate for your nervous system that does perceive time in a very different and distinct way than a linear person who's like hardwired for time? What if you're in a field that requires that and you don't know the tools to navigate your nervous system through that? So I do both. Yes.
I love that. So you're teaching people to kind of understand their clock and how their nervous system is wired so they can work and flow with their system. Do I get that correctly?
That's right. Absolutely. Yes, that is absolutely right. And that is actually, so I said I would talk about 3 and I thought I was going to talk about them linearly, but that was 1. Step 1 is unlock your brilliance, really focused on clarity. And then I'm going to jump to step number 5, which is exactly that, which is establishing and honoring your right, in quotes, rhythm. What is your rhythm, Terrell? What is my rhythm? What is someone else's rhythm? And what does that mean for you? Because so often, again, this idea of undervaluing our brilliance, yes, there's a lot of wisdom in getting up at 5 a.m. and all the things. However, if you at 2 a.m., consistently there is this spark that happens and you get stuff done, there's no reason to devalue that because it doesn't fit in this paradigm or doesn't fit in this box. The more you value that and the more you create your life around like, okay, well, if this is true, like I've got this goal to write this book and at 2 a.m. I just like have this flow, then honor that. Set up a life and a system around that. Don't dishonor that and say, I should be doing this at 2 p.m. and I've got all this like serious leakage of energy where I'm just like, I should be doing this, but I can't. And I try and I go to the coffee shop and it doesn't work. And, whatever. It's like, let that go. And create your own right rhythm.
So now I'm curious because I know I saw in your bio sheet you talked about those energies, and I'm real curious. Like, how can high achieving women align with the 3 energies of professional advancement?
Yes. Okay. So then I'll go back to step 1, 2, and 3. So the first is that clarity piece. Step number 2 is this idea of reframing self-limiting beliefs. And this is so critical. We've got to become our own best friends. We've got to be able to hear, oh, wow. Oh my gosh, like self. I've got to really sit with this. Lord, I am brushing my teeth and I'm telling myself I'm going in on how I can't have this thing, my goal. I'm like, whoa, that means, and we've got to learn to dissect this. That means I have a belief that I'm not enough. I got to sit with that. It's heavy, girl. I got to sit with that. I've got to really reframe that because that's not true. And I know that I do what I believe. And if that's part of my belief, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do the thing. And so I've got to learn. So that is about courage.
I mean, how do you stop your mind from doing that though? Like, because I'm thinking like, yeah, I want to stop my brain from doing that. But how do I stop that negative thought? Like, you're your own worst critic. And like, how do I switch myself from being like, is there a secret word that I say to like pineapples to stop and reframe the thinking, or like, what is the trick?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm gonna like sort of and then I'm gonna answer your question. The is the is coaching. Get a coach. Get a coach who's going to help you do what is not which is the self-awareness. You've got to learn mindset tools that literally help you. It's like inner, oh my gosh, okay, I just got another very strong visual. It's like the operation game. Remember when we were kids, the operation game with the tweezers and you had to get out the little bones and if you tap the side, it zings, right? Okay, so what imagine that on the inside of you, you need to have these little tiny tools that help you parse out that BS, that belief system that's like all in real time happens as a charged experience. You're in the mirror, brushing your teeth, going in on yourself, and you don't even notice. You don't notice because it's what you do when you're brushing your teeth. It's what you're doing when you're driving the car. It's the current conversation in your mind. It's the current thing that you're ruminating on. It's the current suffering that's happening. It's the current discomfort. And, this is so uncomfortable. I have to do this thing. And then we've got to learn. And this is what I teach every single day for every single client. I teach them how to begin to slow down their thoughts, to begin to recognize through self-awareness, I am thinking this thing, I am believing this thing, and ultimately my belief is my choice. And I have learned the techniques, I have embodied the techniques, I've practiced the techniques to learn to turn that ship. And it's like a cruise liner that you're turning. I mean, it's not like in a pivot, you know what I mean? I'm just going to go from like shaming myself to like joy. It's like, how do I go from shame to blame? You know, I'm shaming myself. I should have done that too. They should have done that, which is a higher level, to perhaps it was a mistake. Perhaps I can learn from this. Perhaps I can grow. Perhaps this isn't my whole identity. Perhaps I can look at greater opportunity. It's like learning to pivot yourself around. It is through learning to embody these practices.
I love that. Now, I know a lot of women, when they get to this point where this, okay, the career is not allowing me to show up as my best self, and it's time for me to leave, and I get to this space and I start to say, you know what, I think I'm gonna start to focus on this idea that I have, which means I have to go into entrepreneurship. But then there's this fear of going into it. Why does entrepreneurship cause so much fear in high achieving women, and what could be done about that?
Wait, okay, this is a whole nother podcast to really seriously be had. Oh Lord, this is a whole beast unto itself. Beast, because what I didn't share, and like, how did you get here? So I stopped with like, okay, I heard this question about, are you your own best friend? And then I like made this LLC, and like, here I am 7 years later. Yeah, well, the other part of it is that stepping into entrepreneurship, closing the door to employeeship and into entrepreneurship, it's a whole different way of being. It's a whole different identity. It's a whole different understanding of yourself. You are now your own boss. And let me tell you, remember, I don't know if I've said this, but remember, I'm my own best client. So imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and distractionism are part of what I daily overcome through using my 8 steps. And I am my own boss. I also am my own marketing person. I also, the self-doubt, all of that. They say rip the Band-Aid off. Entrepreneurship took the cast off of my whole body that like had been smashed by a truck that I didn't even know hit me. That's what entrepreneurship was like. It was like, bam, you doubt yourself all the time. You're going to be masterful at perfectionism, distractionism, and imposter syndrome, coaching people through, because that is going to be your lot. You're like, it ripped that off because I wasn't going to a place that no place said, this is the job description, do this, here's the training for it. No place said that I affirm you. I'm smart. I was affirmed where I was. You were doing such a good job. Miss LeCesne was loved. I was in education. So when I was in SHG, I was amazing at all the things. I'm a high achiever. I learn them. I do them. I execute them. Tell me what to do. I can do it. But I am my own boss now. So tell me what to do. Oh my God, I don't know. What are we doing? Oh my God, we're not supposed to do it. That's in conversation in my mind. So yes, you are asking yourself to step into yourself being the visionary, yourself being the executor, yourself being the marketing person, yourself being the scheduler, being the CFO. If you don't know anything about even putting a budget together, most of these people who are stepping into entrepreneurship, they have a skill they know how to do. I know how to cut hair. I know how to coach people. I know how to bake cakes. I know how to be a lawyer, get people out of jail. I know how to like save somebody's heart. I know how to do this thing. That is not a business. A business is systems. A business is, a business is confidence that you can get your clients. Business is sales. So these kinds of things, if you don't know how to do them, they incite for people who are suffering from imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and distractionism, which are fixed mindsets. So the overarching mindset is, I can't learn this. I'm not enough to do this. And if you approach entrepreneurship that way, which is by default part of the issue, it is a very hard row to hoe. So it incites a lot of scariness for a lot of people who are primed with these 3 confidence killers. So again, these people must get coaches. Please do yourself a favor. Get support. Get out of your own way.
Yeah. Make sure y'all come see Ryane. Come get coached. Now, like when you were talking about that, I was like, oh my gosh, like she's so right. Like the coaching will help you get through that, because they got coaches for everything in entrepreneurship. But this mindset piece is just one that I don't see there often. So I'm glad that we stumbled across you and been able to get this. But who did, like, when you were doing this process, who did the coach go? Who coaches the coach?
And I have a coach. Exactly. Yes, I do. And again, a whole nother podcast on how did Ryane start this business. Yeah, because the coach has a coach. So here I was, just very quickly. I left my job. I left my career, which was flourishing. I left like, I'm not going back, and I'm doing this business. I started coaching school, and now I have this quote unquote business with myself as the boss. And as the talent, I was learning how to do all the things at the same time. And in January, I went to an event, a networking event. I was supposed to meet a friend. She wound up not being able to show up. And I met this woman, short, blonde woman, who stuck out her hand and said that she's a life coach. And I had gone to Georgetown University, and I got my coaching certificate in transformational leadership coaching. And so I said, I'm a transformational leadership coach. This was the very beginning of my business. And all I could see from her was this aura of confidence. And not because she's white and blonde, that just happens to be how she default came into this world. She exuded that. I had a thought bubble next to me that said, you think that you are a transformational coach, you want to be a transformational coach, but you're a fraud. That is what my thought bubble was saying. And so coach, we're chatting, right? We're chatting. And she's like, oh, well, let's get together for coffee as, your new coach. Let's get together. Great. And so we went to coffee. We happen to live divinely very near each other. And she said, tell me about your business. And I told her how I was I was the very beginning. I was my first offering. I'm offering it at 80% off, which meant I was selling it for 20%. And I'm putting it together, and I'm putting all these pieces. And she really looked me square in the eye, and she said, if you want your business to not be a hobby, but a business, I really suggest that you get support, that you invest in yourself to have a coach to really help you navigate these waters. And if it's me, great. If not someone else, wonderful. And here I am. I had just gone through coaching school. All my friends are coaches now, but to actually invest in coaching, to actually pay for coaching, I had to do all the things I'm asking my clients to do. Look at their fear, look at their budget. Oh my God, I don't know how. Am I worth it? Am I enough? Where am I going to come? Where's the money going to come from? Can I really invest in my dreams in this way? What if it doesn't happen? I should already know. I should really know because I am a coach. And I've been working with her, right? I've been working with her. I just met with her last Tuesday. I still work with her.
Nice.
7 years later.
I love that.
The coach has a coach.
That's a beautiful story. The coach has a coach. So let's start the wrap up, because I want to get to these last two and then have people know where to find you. In your coaching career, which achievement stands out as the most impactful for you?
That's such a good question. So, coaching career. I think something's wanting to say like this last phase. I'm in year number 7. And this last phase of development has really been about stepping into myself as a business owner. And that meant, and it still means, dismantling a lot of false narrative. And the thing that I want to share with people almost as a testimony in terms of what I'm proud of is, and this is something I'm really having to learn and coach myself through, and that I'm being literally coached through right now, is there's always a delay in our creation and our where we are and what we've created. There's always a time delay, right? So in my mind, I see my business, I see myself at a certain point, and then I look around at my circumstances and they don't feel like they're there. I have stayed in business long enough. I've developed systems long enough. I held on long enough where my circumstances are catching up to my vision. And I want people to know that it does take time to get there. And so give yourself the gift of going through the journey and not cutting the journey off.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I often tell people that that's one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout my career, my journey, is like learning to fall in love with the journey, because there's something beautiful that happens in the journey. And when we just focus too much on the destination, we miss all that stuff in between in the journey that's really helpful to growing whatever that beautiful thing is that you're growing. What key strategies do you suggest for someone looking to advance professionally while maintaining their authenticity?
Yeah, I think so. Outside of a coach, and why I say that is to embody and to learn to embody, learn to practice the things that I'm teaching, the things that I'm about to tell your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a coach helps you learn it. They help you like ingest it. The thing is, and the thing to like, the thing that will set us all free is
Mm-hmm.
becoming self-aware of what we are telling ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming self-aware of what we're telling ourselves and learning to reprogram the things that we're telling ourselves. So how to do that? Some concrete strategies of how to do that. One, it is to begin a meditation practice is the fastest way to do this. Meditation,
Mm-hmm.
because you learn essentially in meditation, and this is a whole nother podcast too. The idea is not to not have any thoughts. The idea is to recognize when your mind has wandered and to come back to your breath. And the reason being that just like when you're going back to our conversation, you're in front of the mirror brushing your teeth, and you're going in on yourself about some catastrophe that's happening in your life currently, or ruminating on the past, or anxiety about the future, your mind has gotten hijacked. You are no longer present to brushing your teeth, to the absolutely no problems that are around you. You have no problems. You're safe in your house brushing your teeth. And yet the mind has wandered. What meditation does is it helps in multiple fold. One being that you begin to notice the hijacking and you have greater power to come back to the alignment of life is I'm okay, I'm enough. So that when you want to reach to call a prospective client or you want to do something and you get hijacked by fear, you have a greater practice, greater literally been on the treadmill, mental treadmill of, oh, I got hijacked and I can come back to center. I can regulate my nervous system. I know how to do that. The second thing that meditation
Mm-hmm.
does is it helps you become aware of the things that you're actually telling yourself, because you begin to slow down and hear them. Oh my God, I'm telling myself that I'm not enough. I tell everybody else they're enough. I tell everybody else, you know what? It is because you are a Black woman, you have worked twice as hard than everybody else. That's why you're twice as better. Damn it. Go in there and like, go get them, girl. I tell everybody that. And I tell myself, you can't do it. Nobody wants you here. Like, that's what so, oh my God, I've got to like notice. I tell myself that. And because I'm about to go into a job interview, I just spoke to someone the other day about this, because I'm about to go into a job interview that's a stretch and all the things, and my livelihood is based on my job. So we're talking about like a very primal need to have a job, which is very threatening to self if I don't get this job. And I'm telling myself every day that as a Black woman, I've got to do this. I'm like, people don't want me in this situation, and they're out for me. And she's wondering why she's feeling the weight. Yes. And it's because she's in the current circumstances of a new job. It's like, this really matters in real time. So get to know what you're thinking. Those two things.
Yeah.
Get to know what you're
You know what?
thinking.
I could have used that earlier in the episode, because I almost did 3 podcasts today because you was giving such good information. I wasn't following my script. My brain got hijacked. I started like having these other questions, and I was like, "Oh shoot, let me focus and get back on what we originally came.
Let's do more shows. This is fun. Yes, no, there's so much to say. I know, and I have so much to say.
I know. So, Ryan, this has been a pleasure. I would love to keep going, but I try not to keep my podcast is not Joe Rogan style 2-hour conversations.
Yeah.
But we gonna definitely have to come back and have another conversation. But let's wrap things up, close out. What are you currently working on? Where can people find you? How can they connect with you? And any last words of wisdom to our audience?
Yes, absolutely. So I am currently, what I want to offer for people is if you feel moved to connect with me, I have a complimentary discovery call that you can find on my website. I also have a masterclass that's free that I'm currently registering people for right now. And all of that, including my social media, including a free quiz, can be found on my website, which is inspirebrandconsulting.com. And everything is there from, again, a discovery call to social media. That's the best way to connect is through my website.
Yeah. So, and for those of y'all that's still driving, don't worry. I'm gonna get all that contact information on put in the show notes. So as soon as you get off the episode, you just click in the link in the show notes, and it'll take you directly there. Ryane, thank you again for blessing my audience with such valuable information. We would love to have you back again to go down some deeper rabbit holes if that's okay with
Yes, I'd
you.
love that. I would love that. I would love to come back and talk to you, Cheryl. This was an amazing conversation. This was so fun.
Thank you, and when we get you back on that episode, there's a couple of things I know we're going to dive in. I'll have the listeners give their questions, and then we'll unwrap some of those things. So thank you
Yeah.
again. We appreciate you. We salute you, and we'll catch you on the next time.
Take care.